Ladies and gentlemen, somebody who has an enormous amount of experience with all of this, and we're very interested for his take, is the great Florida Congressman Cory Mills. He's an Army combat veteran. He joins us live now. Congressman, what's going on, man?
How
Your
are you?
take on this weekend?
Well, look, it was an amazing military operation with key and precision strike capabilities. I've been talking about this for quite a few months now about Quan, which is forward on Esfarhan, and Natanz with their centrifuge enrichment capabilities. We know that the IAEA had come out, who's not a friend to Israel, America, or any others, and even talked about the escalation and enrichment to a nuclear weapons grade capability. The thing that the president has done consistently, and I like the way that you've kind of built this up, Benny, is that he has consistently reiterated time and time again, I am open to diplomatic peace talks and a treaty, but the Iranian regime cannot at any point in time get their capabilities to a weapons grade nuclear armament. This is something that he's talked about ad nauseum. And there's people who are trying to claim that this is an unconstitutional utilization of military force. It is not. Under Article 2, Section 2, the president and the executive branch has limited war power authorities. Not to mention the fact that while I disagree with it and wish that they be repealed, before I came to Congress, Congress had passed in 1957, 1991, 2001, and 2002 an authorized use of military force. The 0102 AUMF talks about the targeting of the global war on terror. Iran is the largest state sponsor of terror. Name the Houthis, name the Hamas, name Kataib Hezbollah, name all of the individual proxy Shia militias across the globe who continue to target our allies as well as for the US. So what this means is that does the president walk us into warfare? No. He utilizes key precision strikes like he did in the first administration with the elimination of Qasem Soleimani, like he did in the first administration with the elimination of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS. This has continually been a non-nation building, non-regime change, non-forever war plan to eliminate key strategic targets with accuracy, without collateral damage, and ensuring that we can keep the West and our allies safe. This is very clear, and it was a very successful operation.
So my biggest concern here is America being dragged into war. Nobody voted for that. We put up the polling this morning, which is atrocious in favor of the war. It's 5% in favor of the war, almost 95%.
You can add me to the 95%.
Against America going to war. And I know that because you've actually seen it up close. And you've done it, and you've lost friends, probably due to an Iranian munition and a Qasem Soleimani operation plotted deep into the sand, in a foreign land. And nobody wants that, right? And nobody wants more of that. And the polling's very clear on this. So with so many American assets out in the region here, how do we stop America from being dragged into war? Because the moment that a belligerent Iranian, in either a false flag attack or otherwise, attacks an American, well, then it's game on, right? It's like, I see it it's so perilous. I want to prevent it.
Well, myself and many of my colleagues have argued, why do we have troops in Syria? Why do we have troops still in Iraq? They are obviously in harm's way. They are within reach of your mid-range ballistic missiles, Katyusha rockets by Shia-backed militias, and other types of harm. I still don't understand why we're in countries that we have no operational agenda, that we have no actual battle plan, and we have no status of forces agreement in place. So I understand mentor protege programs. I understand the idea of training the leads to be able to go after ISIS to ensure that it doesn't have a resurgence. But again, when we're doing these types of key strategic targeting, we have to also bear in mind that it does have the potential for retaliatory attacks. And that attack, as President said in the very first administration, if even a single American has been struck, he has targets already identified. He has proven to be a strong and bold leader, but the way that we don't get ourselves into a never-ending war is by having strong leadership. We have that under Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. We have that under Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and we certainly have that under President Trump, who has proven time and time again that he understands the art of negotiation. So I do not see us walking into a forever war. I do not see anything other than an increase in our missile defense capabilities, whether that be a THAAD Patriot battery capability in the Iraq region, whether that be in other areas until we can withdraw our troops. But you're right. We do always border on that threshold of where do we draw the line of ensuring a non-nuclear capability by a malign actor and the protection and the safety of our troops from retaliatory attacks. And this is where preparation, repositioning, pre-positioning of military hardware and equipment and defense, and then knowing the actual battlefield assessments really comes into play.
So this is something that I've been struggling with, and perhaps you can help me out because you are on the Foreign Affairs Committee, House Armed Services Committee. You have far more intel than I do. But can you explain to me like why the rush to do this? Because obviously, yeah, I can go back into articles from the New York Times nearly on the date of my birth in the 80s, Congressman, and find articles saying Iran's like a second away from getting a nuclear weapon. This has been going on for 30 years. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying I'm saying their nuclear program's a bad thing, and that Iran, and especially their leadership, are bad actors in the region. Obviously, okay. But what I'm trying to say here is like, why the immediate urgency to go do this?
I think that the IAEA report was certainly very alarming. I think that Iran's regime, having the inability of wanting to even have a negotiation at the table, shows that they were closer than they thought, and they thought had a position of strength. We also have to bear in mind that, as you talked about from the 80s to now, Iran has spent over $2 trillion in their nuclear enrichment programs. Over time, they're going to get the necessary capabilities to be able to actually weaponize and use the armament possible. But there's also been a geopolitical shift where China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have geopolitically aligned to become this axis of evil. The last thing that we want is to allow us to have a existential threat against Israel or any of our allies or the U.S., but also the idea that there was tens of millions of people who crossed our borders under the previous administration. There are potential sleeper cells here in the United States. Imagine, if you will, for a moment, Iran getting to an enrichment nuclear capability and sneaking a dirty bomb across the border to target Westerners here in the U.S. So there's a lot of intel that even I don't have as a member who sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm the chairman of the Oversight and Intelligence Committee, but there's things that even we haven't been briefed on yet, and I'm sure that we'll get that brief whenever I get back and go into the skiff. But there are always a precipice of intelligence gathering and intel that's been afforded to us either by ourselves or Five Eye partners that allow us to say, okay, look, we can't take another moment on this. And we know that the escalation between Israel and Iran could have actually been to a precipice where we said, you know what? Iran has enough of a capability to be able to strike inside of Israel. And remember, we have so many Americans that are dual citizens who stay in Israel, that this is now a time that we must strike. And it also forces this regime to come back to the table to say, all right, no mas. You've done what you've said. I'm now willing to come to the negotiation table. But last point, this also sends a direct message to China, who's been threatening the unification of Taiwan and wondering what America's capabilities are. We continue to show it. We are the strongest armed force in the world. We have the greatest volunteer warriors that you'll ever find any place in the world. And I can tell you right now, with Pete Hegseth focusing on a warrior-focused ethos, that we're going to continue to strengthen ourselves. Our recruitment's already reaching its numbers first time in many, many years. And we are moving forward, and our adversaries are paying attention. Now, when we get to an economic strong point, America becomes the global world leader once again.
I appreciate the projection of strength. I understand that when it comes to Soleimani. I understand that when it comes to Kim Jong-un. I understand that when it comes to beheading ISIS. I just know that the stakes are really high. Trump's a really great player at this game. The stakes are super high. Maybe in conclusion, Congressman, can you at the very least admit to us, given the fact that you just talked about splinter cells here in America, that it is far more exigent and important to our nation to rid ourselves of the 15 to 20 million criminal aliens that exist here in this country that are already a weaponized bomb that is inside of our homeland right now?
Absolutely.
That needs to be the top priority. That it needs to be the number one priority.
Absolutely.
The main thing.
Absolutely. And Secretary Noem of the DHS, as well as for Tom Homan, have said they are on high alert right now to look at potential sleeper cell capabilities, to look at lone wolf attacks. That is something they're very focused on. The FBI under Kash Patel, who I trust implicitly, has continued to try and move forward, and Dan Bongino to look at different types of counterterrorism capabilities within the United States. So, yes, it's an existential threat or an exigent threat. It's something that we're looking at every single moment of every day to keep Americans safe. But again, we're making a huge cleanup of the previous administration. Iran would not be where it's at today if the Biden administration had not released $10 billion in fungible assets, stopped the enforcement of sanctions on oil exportation to China, which has driven up their money more than they've ever seen. They were out on the ropes under President Trump. They opened the borders and allowed tens of millions of people. They delisted the Houthi rebels as a terrorist organization, disrupting 12% of global trade. And now President Trump is coming here and having to clean this up, secure our borders, keep Americans safe, our allies, and prevent Iran from a nuclear weapon. That is what the president is actually forced to do. And so he's doing a great job, and I have full trust and confidence, and I support him in every way.
You know what, Congressman, I really hope that it plays out like that. You know, we've done our show best to like keep the coalition together. This is what I want. I view that as actually the greatest single
and
threat
nobody
here
wants
is like
war,
the breaking
I can
up.
tell you, especially those who fought him, Benny. None of us want a never-ending war. We don't want to go back to the George W. Bush, neocon, neo-lib, conservative thoughts. We want to stay on the America First agenda, and I promise that this strategic strike, which does not thrust us into war, we will not have boots on the ground. We will not spend trillions of dollars and thousands of lives like we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. We are doing strategic strikes that keep America and the homeland safe.
Yes, every single GWAT veteran in my timeline is saying the exact same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, Cory Mills, follow him, obviously. Nearly 300,000 Americans do. He's one of these clear voices that just rings like a bell, especially in times like this. Thank you for saying that, Congressman. I do appreciate the understanding. Like, dude, the first term, Trump was cleaning up ISIS. ISIS was created clearly, as Trump said in the debates against Hillary Clinton. Man, we should get that clip, ALX. I want to play that later in the show. Trump told Hillary Clinton to her face, "You created ISIS.
Right.
Like, you made ISIS, and now I have to go clean it up." And I think it's worth saying, like, how does Iran get so much money to do this? Well, I mean, obviously, like Obama and Biden appeasement operations.
Right.
Like,
and don't forget, it was Obama who actually flew a plane load of Swiss francs into Iran because he couldn't fly U.S. dollars, that's in violation, and literally flew pallets of cash into the Iranian regime.
Keep the main thing. Mass deportations. You want to talk about strength. You want to know what weakness looks like? Weakness looks like having 20 million criminal invaders into your country.
Amen.
That's weakness, actual. Like, real strength is in part bombing, Iran's nuclear program. Real strength is mass deportations. That's
mass deportation. We have a 600% increase in apprehensions right now. Yeah. Our borders have never been more secure.
Good. Well, I appreciate it, Congressman. Godspeed. Everybody follow.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.